Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the wrap up discussion, the final buddy read book that we will be doing in the realm of the Elderlings together. It's been a long journey with my now good friend Colin. We didn't really know each other or talk before we started this thing with Ship of Magic up here, but man, I feel like I've grown pretty close to you over these last couple of years as we've gone on this journey, and it's been so rewarding. And we finally reached the end, which is sad because it's been a magnificent journey. But I'm so happy to have taken it with you.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. I think ending series is nothing new to fantasy and sci-fi fans. We all see it coming. We see the writing on the wall, so to say, but some of them just hit a little bit harder than
Mm.
others. This one hit pretty hard, I think, in
Yeah,
a great way. I mean, it was the most bittersweet. This personally for me, this is the most rewarding overall reading experience I've had. Um, I think maybe ever. And there's a whole lot of series
yeah,
I haven't read yet. Still, I know you've got a lot more under the belt than I do, but this was a really big series, and finishing it, I don't know, it really impacted me, which I'm sure we'll get into.
yeah. And Darius saying, "Realm of the Otherlings is stare at the wall and to a stare." Yeah, just like sitting and processing all the emotions, everything that's come before. And we have Evie in here as well, or was a little bit ago. Um, and that's so kind of you to be eager for this last chat. But who knows if it's the end for us? I think we'll have other buddy reads, but I've already been throwing around the idea of circling back so that we can complete the buddy reading set and and go back to the first three. So we'll chat about that later. If uh, but we'll stick to the main topic today. For now, we'll do a quick non spoilers section for Assassin's Fate. So if you have not read this book or even anything in the series, we'll try to be spoiler free for a little bit, and we'll make sure to let you know when we're going to get into all the spoilers so you can peace out until you catch up. Uh, but curious first just about this particular book and you and the series. For you, like, did it did it satisfy you as the conclusion to this very long series? Did it
Absolutely.
fall short in any way for you? No.
I think that anything that people may point to as having like taking issue with, um for me would be more just like the typical things that people take issue with Robin Hobb, which are things like it takes her a little while to get into things, and um, I mean sometimes her books are longer. Those are things that don't matter to me. Like there was nothing plot wise, character wise, anything in this that stuck out to me as like rubbing me the wrong way or feeling out of place. And I think I guess we'll get into this like a little bit later, but I think that this ending was perfect for me. Fool's Fate is still my favorite, just because of where things ended there.
Mhm.
And this, this was still like I could like it. Once we got to the ending, it couldn't have happened any other way in my mind. It was perfect, and I didn't see it coming. But I still think emotionally, like where we left the characters at the end of Fool's Fate was my favorite place to kind of think about them. Although this was, I think, I mean, it was an amazing addition to the series. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Nice. I'm glad it worked so well for you. Unfortunately, this was a huge. I'm in the camp where it was just a huge letdown. This whole last trilogy just didn't do it for me, and just a poor way to go out. No, no, no. I am joking, everyone. I love this finale book. It was the book I think I was most in just gripped to the page by, emotionally invested in, and I on an objective level, I had the biggest emotional reaction to any book in this whole series. I thought how wasn't gonna get me. I was most of the way through this and I hadn't yet like physically cried. And it was the last chunk that had me basically in a continually weeping state almost.
Yeah.
So she got me, and I don't feel like I read just to have emotional experiences. Like I enjoy when I'm intellectually engaged, and like Children of Time was an incredible and engaging roller coaster ride, and it really engaged me intellectually, and I cared about the characters, but not that much. But when you have a really profound emotional experience, I don't get to have those too often in just life. I don't. I'm not like a therapist and having all these, or even going to therapy and having all these like cathartic emotional experiences all the time. And so, getting that from a reading experience is pretty special. And yeah, yeah, there, yeah, famous last words. Oh, sorry that I was fooling you. Possibly no. This this is the type
Unintended.
of yeah, not intended. This is the what I live for with this hobby of reading fantasy is
Unintended.
going on this long journey, and it feeling so personally meaningful, and just gaining steam along the way, and feeling like I'm living these lives along with the characters. I was right there the whole time with them, and just on this unpredictable ride for where it was going to go. And man, it was perfect. This to me became my favorite book in the series, which which was easy for me to
Totally.
kind of judge based on my like emotional reaction being bigger. But it also like it feels like the deck is stacked in its favor. It's like the finale, things from all throughout the series, in all the different sub-series, were weaving in and impacting this, and plot arcs and character arcs from all different of the books and sub-series were coming to a culmination here. And so it had that huge advantage, and so it kind of had the deck stacked a little bit. But be that as it may, this was a 10 out of 10 perfect read, memorable, one of my new favorite books. But it's more like that this helped the series to me just become nailed down as one of my clear favorites of all time. So
This is how I knew I was in trouble. Right here. I opened this. I was laying in bed next to my wife, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm in trouble. This is gonna hurt.
Hey Chadia. Oh, we have some of the people that have been along the journey with us for so long here. It's
The
so
whole
special
time.
to have Chadia, Derry, and Evie along for this ride, and be able to join them now as Realm of the Elderlings veterans. It's so weird. I've been having this series just like as something that I've been wanting to kind of go through and to finish for so long. It's so weird to have now have it fully under my belt. And we have Jake in the house. Oh, welcome
Jake, don't skip live ship Bishop.
Another Hobb stan. That was one of like, I took a few years pause between finishing Farseer and Live Ship, because the idea of like changing to this third person multi POV like heavy trilogy, like that was going to be different, like it was intimidating. But I knew from Jake that I couldn't skip it, and man, thank God, because it's essential for the series. But
I think it's
yeah,
hard sometimes. Like, so I have friends in my life, in real life, outside of BookTube, that they read, but they don't read like as much as some of us do. And one of my best friends, he's reading the series, and he just finished last night the second book in the Rainwild Chronicles, and he was having like a similar start to I was,
mm-hmm.
and he was kind of like, "Do I need to read this?" Like, he was really stalled out for like a couple months, and I was just like, I hate like saying this, but like technically, like I'd rather you finish this series than not finish the series. And then once I got to this book, because I hadn't fully read this book at that time when I said that, what I said to him, I was like, if you read all of Rainwild Chronicles and you finish the series after that, it will be 100% worth it. So I think, with Live Ship, like you were saying in the beginning, and with Rainwild, it's this like final book in the series, and this final trilogy really did a lot to bring everything together.
Yeah, in a spectacular way. That and Derry's thankful that we both had an emotional connection to the series. Yeah, it it took me a little while longer to form that emotional connection to the Fitz books and the Fitz set of characters. The first trilogy, maybe it was just the timing of it. I read Farseer early on in my return to adult fantasy when I was reading a lot of the more fast paced popcorn style fantasy like Cosmere, John Gwynne, Faithful and the Fallen, Michael Sullivan's Raya Revelations, like, and then like this was like an oddball out in that when I was in that initial sequence, and I think it just wasn't the right time. And uh, but the last 2 years, this has just been so rewarding, forming all these emotional connections to the characters and to Hobb's writing style. Um, and we have Evie, even though she's currently modding for Joanna's live chat. Wow, that's a lot to balance. Well, thanks for still keeping an ear out for this. And yeah, but I am now like trying to debate with myself how high the series is going for me is my favorite. It's weird because like I feel a little bit differently about the different sub-series, like Tawny Man, Live Ship, and now this fits in the pool, like some of my favorite like sub-series. But really, it feels all one, and as one, it's gonna be very close to the top of my favorites now. I'm also rereading Stormlight Archive, and which has before held that top spot, and that fifth book's coming out. So I think those two are probably going to be firmly kind of side by side as my favorites, and they're so different. I love the variety we get in the types of writing styles and stories we get in just modern fantasy alone, because it's so different in so many ways to a lot of the other popular series.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because this is something that we kind of differed on earlier on in our read along, but you seemed, as far as this series went, from the very first book in this series, way more attached to Fitz than you were previously.
Yeah,
Do you
and
think that's because you took so much time in between Farseer and Live Ship, or do you think like Hobb kind of earned that over time? Like, where do you think that came from? Because I'm not saying you dislike the Fitz storyline, but it seemed like you were less grabbed by it than I was.
You mean like in Tawny Man, or like when we started Tawny
Yeah,
Man? Yeah,
yeah.
I think I was just like Live Ship really captivated me, and so I was just so into the world and the overall plotting and storytelling, and then coming back in Fool's Errand, that beginning after the time skip in the story, like it just had Fitz in such a relatable place because he was like around my age and dealing with a lot of the same like just identity and internal conflicts and emotions. And so I just felt like immediately more able to relate to Fitz. And then what an amazing trilogy that was in terms of the stakes and the plotting and the new characters that came around and the things that happened that were so emotional. But then I do want to get to spoilers. I want to make sure we don't spoil anything for people that are here. So to fully answer that question, I want to get into some spoilers. So we are going to get into spoilers for Assassin's Fate and the entire Realm of the Elderlings series. So you want to avoid those. I was able to avoid spoilers for years of key things that were in this last final sub-series, and it was really important for me to maintain some of the surprises because there are some great ones that she saves for here. And so yeah, we will get into spoilers. Spoilers happening now. So the introduction of except I did read this along the way.
I did not.
Are we? Oh yeah. So so Evie's telling me don't do spoilers for this. Okay. True. I will not say anything about that. Good catch, Evie. So the introduction of the B POV, like it took these Fitz books, which I was loving in Tawny Man, but it elevated them to something that became just something greater and more profound for me, that introducing this father-daughter dynamic. Well, it was already a really emotional dynamic between him and Nettle, but with B being born to him and Molly right there, and we seeing the like their family dynamic from the start,
Yeah.
like it, and then the B POV, like getting that surprise of this completely different POV to then play off of Fitz's POVs, like that dynamic of the switching. I think I do tend to like multi POV books usually, and that just elevated this sub-series for me in such an incredible way. And I cared so much for B. She was just so precious, and someone who you just wanted to be safe and protect so much, and to follow along her harrowing journey where she's in danger, and Fitz is just in agony, thinking she's captured, dead, not dead. Like, the emotional stakes of this were so brutal. And so it was not always the happiest read, but man, that introduction just, for me, like, it brought my attachment level to the Fitz books to the maximum. And Derry saying, can't give a 10 out of 10 when you've only got a maximum score of 7. I don't know what she's referring to there, but this was at my maximum investment level. So I think already it was like the time skip and Fitz aging up a little bit, like that helped me be more invested. And then the dueling POV structure of this series was just like, it had me so invested and engaged like none other.
I agree. I think that, obviously, like I was kind of floored when I realized that there was a POV switch originally, and then it elevated so many other characters for me, including largely Fitz, who I already loved, but it elevated the ancillary characters that Fitz has interactions with, that Fitz has a completely different feeling towards than B does. Like Perseverance is a good example. Like if we would have just gotten Fitz's POV on Perseverance, it would have been maybe a little bit more like we would have been annoyed by Perseverance, kind of like Fitz was, until Perseverance earned his trust. But we knew how good of a dude Perseverance was already. So we were like, Fitz, will you just like loosen up, man? Like he's just trying to help you. But B gave us that, and B did that for a lot of other characters, and also I think solidified, or it kind of opened our eyes to just how the world feels about Fitz, even though Fitz never feels that way about himself. Over the course of the entire series, he never feels that way about himself, but we see through B's perspective how much people revere him, how much people fear him, how much people respect him, like the lore around him. So I think that, it was a gutsy move by Hobb to do this so late in the series, but it landed on every level with me.
Yeah, I think we were right in accordance with that. The father-daughter dynamic just introduced something that this we just did not have before in this series, and it's got a little bit with Nettle, which was already like Hobb is so powerful with it, but getting it from B's POV though, like just the love that both had for each other, but then and like seeing Fitz from the outside was so interesting and fascinating, and man, it was just so, like, being with B, like I came to love her so much, like out, and I'm wondering if we're gonna get more stories in this series around B. I think I saw a Robin Hobb tweet or something to that end that she might continue, but I hope so, because she's just such a wonderful character to spend time with. We get an external view of Fitz for the first time. It's more than a little heartbreaking. Yeah. And a new perspective on Molly as well. Not just as lover and wife from Fitz, but as a woman and caretaker of everyone and everything from B. Yeah, like B's relationship with Molly was so beautiful and pure. And so wonderful, and also like I feel like it was important for the whole series to get a POV from someone with the white kind of the white lineage and having those powers so we could more understand what that's like, and that if we go back and reread will help us understand the Fool in so
Yeah.
much of a deeper way than we would just from the outside. Because what the Fool is able to articulate about like what he can do is uh, limited compared to like what the experience of it is like, and so it's doing so much to deepen our understanding of everything from characters to the world building and the plotting and um, yeah, seeing Molly's strength through B is a gift. Absolutely. I want to know what happens to B after the series. Like she's a real person. Talking about B as a real person, like when she got rescued and was taken back to Buckkeep and was just like not having a really fulfilling time of it, it was like I was feeling like, oh, this is so not right for her. Like this is not the happy ever after ending that I was hoping. Like she's just so out of place in the court, and I was desiring something so different for her, and so we'll go back and try to go through it a little bit more linearly. But I'm so glad Hobb kind of left B in a different spot than having to kind of defend herself from all the sniping young women in the court. And she's going off on a new adventure, and I want to see it. I want to see it. Although I will say, Chadia, if Hobb writes more books in this series, bad things are going to befall B and the other characters. Like I don't think she's going to be writing cozy fantasy all of a sudden. I would
No,
welcome it. I would welcome it, but
this is
like,
no Legends and Lattes.
I would imagine things are going to get rough for B once again if Hobb decides to pick up the pen and continue the tale.
I do want to touch a little
Yeah.
bit about the B and Molly, because I think there was a certain camp of Molly apologists over the course of the whole series. I believe Evie and Derry being two of Molly's biggest stands, and I think in Farseer it's kind of hard to like Molly doesn't feel as fleshed out, nor do I think she's really supposed to be as fleshed out in Farseer, and also they're very young. So I think a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way about Molly, but this series shows her through B in a completely different light, and through Fitz, because we see her as a lover, as a wife, as the person that Fitz has cared about for all these years. But then we see her also like B fiercely defends her mother as being like Derry said, the real killer, like will do anything
That
for
was a
B.
great
Like
line. That was a great line. Yeah.
like it is a badass. Like she gets stuff done. And my respect level, I already liked Molly. Like she wasn't my favorite character, but I liked Molly, and like my respect level of Molly through B's eyes grew so much over the course of seeing her through B's eyes.
Yeah. Oh, this was the first time that I think a tier drop might have started to form. I don't know if it fell yet, but B just like enjoying being a playful kid with Thick and going to visit him and befriending Thick and them just having fun with their snacks and with their music games with the skill and like that was so heartwarming, and it definitely reminded me of just like the sledding scene with Thick and Fitz, of just like Thick has this ability to bring joy and happiness and be present with others and in a really beautiful way. So what a great meeting that they had. That was beautiful. That was just beautiful.
Yeah, I think the line you're referencing was when B was just like something like, "Oh, this is what it's like to play."
Mm. Oh,
That
oh,
killed
so
me.
powerful. So powerful. Derry's excited for whatever Hobb writes next, dreading the fact it'll be a farewell to Kettrikin, most likely. Yeah. Hobb is always packs an emotional punch when characters end up dying in one way or another. So definitely with you there. Evie was a fan of Molly from the beginning. Jake says where if real consequences don't happen, what was the point of the story? Yeah, Hobb is a fan of major major consequences, and I probably wouldn't want anything different from Hobb either. I know going in, it's going to be tense. I'm going to be dreading the suffering of the characters, but I like also the current of optimism and love and companionship and hope that's also within this series. I think it really just toes the line of being brutal and optimistic in a really nice way that's um, enlivening and elevating. Yeah. Oh, it's not going to be cozy. The Wolf of the West and Beast Prophecies. Let's go. Man, let's go back to the beginning for this book. We usually start at the beginning of these and kind of go through.
We try to.
Yeah. Fitz is in Kelsingra, and I mean, all of this section was just so interesting and like unpredictable. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Are they gonna overwhelm him with all their healing requests? Is General Rapskull gonna be up to no good? Like, because he didn't seem to like what was going on with them all being in Kelsingra, and like that was just such an interesting beginning. That was tense, and it was just cool to be back in a place we spent a lot of time in with the Rainbow Chronicles, and seeing some of the other characters show up, and like Thymara and Fitz like helping all their kids and them being so thankful. Like, I loved seeing how thankful everyone was of Fitz and wanting to respect him, and Malta and Rain being very protective over him. Like, I really loved this opening section in Kelsingra, and just curious if there's anything there that you wanted to mention.
No, I think this was part of this was one of the most interesting things about this whole last series, and it was a lot of it for me in this last book where we think finally at this point in their lives that Fitz has figured out who and what the Fool is, and there's so much questioning again of who and what the Fool really is. Because Fitz is very frustrated and like doesn't really particularly like this Amber character of the Fool.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Doesn't like
Yeah.
he like I mean they've known each other for what 60 years, however old Fitz is at this point. And like he feels like he's treading, like he doesn't trust Amber. He feels like he's treading on like thin ice. He doesn't know what Amber's up to. He doesn't understand the depth of the relationship between Amber and the Rainwild people. Like it was interesting to see Fitz exercising so much trepidation around this entire situation because he was only getting the one side. He had no idea what Amber was up to, and Amber had this grand scheme of kind of what they were trying to do this whole time.
Yeah.
So I think it was interesting. There's a lot of scenes in this part of the book that felt really tense to me because of that.
And Derry's right. Like, it results in Fitz forming this alliance between the Six Duchies and Kelsingra, and like his being mindful of the diplomacy aspect and getting messages out back to Dutiful, and Nettle to send skilled people there to help with healing. Like, and that was all really nice pieces of world building, all kind of falling into place. And yeah, the dynamic with Amber was so interesting. Like, to be just like a crowd pleaser, Hobb could have just had Fitz and the Fool like having no friction between them throughout this whole thing, but like having there still be this like mistrust and friction where, you know, the Fool is like still manipulating Fitz and not being all forthright, and using the other personas. Like, that just made their dynamic more complex and interesting in this book.
I think too, like for me, Fitz was seeing, so like Fitz knows the Fool as a fully fleshed out person, or so he thinks. But so many other people, like Spark, is probably the best example of this. And then we get to see like Malta and the Vestrits. Like Fitz is seeing how much of a relationship the Fool has with all of these other entities as different people, and so he's questioning like, wait, like, who are you? Like, how can you have such a depth of a relationship as Amber with these people as I have with you as the Fool? Like, how are you able? How
Yeah.
are you able to be like Lord Golden and be like that to so many people? Like, should I trust you? Like, I've been trusting you for years, but like, and it really, like, for me, it added a very interesting dynamic that I didn't think I was gonna have to deal with in this book.
Meanwhile, like, we, having read Live Ship, know that Amber played a meaningful role in, Malta and Rain's lives, and later on other Live Ship characters, and so like it makes sense for us why the Fool would be Amber in these situations, and just as the reader, having seen more than Fitz has, just an interesting dynamic to see Fitz being super frustrated, not understanding about it, and Evie's mentioning the tension is parallel with the tension between B and the Fool. Ooh, oh yeah, that is interesting. I don't think I just like connected those dots, but that is a point of connection between Fitz and B. They both
Yeah.
kind of are very wary of Amber, and like again, Hobb not being a crowd pleaser, like B, when B is kind of united with the Fool, like could have just had them hit it off as like pseudo father and daughter that are now getting to build a relationship, but like B wasn't having any of it, and it was like, and there's a lot of complex psychology going on all sides, and like that whole dynamic between them just felt also very organic and realistic, and just made this richer, and just like Hobb refusing to just like do like easier crowd pleasing relationship dynamics. Yeah.
I was just looking at Darius' comment about I can hear the Fool saying, Fitz, I can explain. Because this was the moment. Like, we knew at some point Fitz was gonna see, well, I hoped at some point Fitz was gonna see himself.
I didn't think about that at all until it happened. And so I like did a double take in my read of like, wait, why was that? Oh, Paragon has Fitz's face. Like that is an incredible like payoff moment for
It
the
had to have
series.
been the most
Yeah.
jarring experience for Fitz. Like, wait, a live ship is prowling the seas with my exact face on it? And he didn't know that Amber had done it at that point. And so
Yeah,
Amber just
yeah.
goes, Fitz, I can explain. And then he's like, what?
Oh, Jake was excited for it. Yeah, he was on the ball. I did not. I forgot that Paragon was going around with Fitz's face.
Oh,
So,
as soon as they said they were going to be on the Paragon, that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh,
oh,
Fitz is
nice.
finally going to see his face.
What I didn't forget about was the existence, though, of the Tarman and the Paragon. Like going into this book, last chat, I was predicting or hoping that we would journey to Clarice through these ships, and that, while it wasn't like the most unpredictable turn of events, it was so satisfying for me personally that we got to spend time on the Tarman, and Fitz is getting to meet Leftrin and Elise and the ship Tarman, and like interact with these ships in a new way because of his kind of magical capabilities, and so like we're experiencing them a little differently. I I was so happy of how this played out, that we kind of took our reverse trip down the Rainwild River and just got to see some like things of how they turned out. Like like the Kasaric people are basically like completely like pushed out of the trade, and they haven't actually like taken steps to bring consequences to the people that had, you know, tried to ally with the Chalcidians. Like that was interesting to see. Like it was, and then like getting to Treehog and finally meeting up back with Paragon. Like I love this portion. I know some people that I know, like Pete from Ponderings of Pete, weren't the biggest fans of seeing a lot of these like older main characters from Live Ship, and like in not having their POVs now, and so we're just getting them from Fitz's POV and from the outside. And but I loved it. I loved seeing them from the outside. I loved spending any more time with Paragon, Althea, Brashin, like Clef, Sorcourt. Like Wintrow coming out of the woodwork. I loved it. I thought this was just the perfect way to bring all of the sub series together. So this was, not only did I have no complaints about this section of kind of reuniting with some old characters for us, but I loved it. I was all
Yeah,
about it.
it was really nice to revisit these characters and see them settled into their new life roles, like deeply settled into their new life roles, you know, as members of the big town trader community council, live ship trader owners. But to pivot a bit, while all of this wonderful stuff is going on, B is having a
Oh,
horrible
oh,
time. Like
oh man, oh man,
horrible time.
oh god,
Get
oh
like
god.
the one of the things that's hinted at the whole time once we figure out what skill pillars are to be terrified of is like going through a pillar that is not routed correctly, or we don't know if it's routed correctly to come out of safely. And it happens to be like she gets stuck
Oh god.
under a freaking pillar with like
Oh,
four other people. I
that
was
was
like
just such.
terrified for them.
Yeah, that was such a brutal scene to live through, and then she gets out and she's living, you know, just trying to stay hidden in Chalcid, and like at least she was able to find some food here and there and not be under, Dwalia's imprisoning. But like that was a brutal section where she's just scraping by, um, and then getting imprisoned though as a slave, and Dwali coming back, like, oh, just brutal, because like we thought she might be breaking free, and then it happened again on the ship. Like she was able to break free from the storm, and then they found and came and killed that nice merchant who was taking care of
I
her.
was
Like
so
brutal, and she sees that happen, the murder, like Vindalire, like having her get stabbed a million times. Like she saw so many violent, traumatic things in this journey, where it was like, oh my god, I hate this for you, that you're that at this young age and with your tender soul, that you have to go through this. And even if she wasn't like the one, even if she was able to avoid like a lot of like the physical violence at this point, like she was seeing so much horrible stuff that it
yeah.
was just
I
brutal.
mean,
It was brutal.
things she never could have I mean, she like not only was she like so young, she was very sheltered. I mean, she was isolated in an isolated place in Withywood. She was not living in court life. Like she wasn't living
Yeah.
in a bustling city or bustling town where there was people and like I don't know, drunk people walking around and homeless people and fights, and like she lived in Withywood, like a nice manor, and she was even isolated there. So like she's thrust out into the world and she's just like, oh my god, like even just the Withywood's attack alone would send you.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. And
but yeah,
and
this whole scene, like not scene, but this whole
sequence of
conglomeration of
her.
scenes,
Yeah.
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 I like just Dwalia became one of the most hated,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
regal level of hatred
Yes.
because
Worse
she
for me.
kept
Yeah, worse.
coming back. Like I was like,
Yes, yes.
B finally got out. And then it's
And
just like,
yeah.
no, like you can't know. Like when she bursts through the door and kills I forget what the lady's name was that helped B. I was just like, what? How?
And the more time
How
we
is this
spent with
happening?
Dwellia, the more evidence we had that she was just like purely evil down to the core and self-interested and just caring for nothing and no one other than herself, and willing to do unspeakably evil things around every corner to get her way. And it was brutal. And then to learn later from Prilkop that he thought Dwalia might have been B's catalyst, which in retrospect actually makes sense with like how he explained it, and then how B also had like multiple of the kind of skin transformations since she had been with Dwalia. Like that is horrifying to think about. I was like, I had always thought of Catalyst as being like, oh, the plucky sidekick that a prophet could have that would always, be their friend, like Fitz in the Fool. But that was horrifying to learn that like it could have been Dwalia as B's catalyst. Like, man, Hobb just twisting some knives in there, and like, and also just like B being in the position to just like murder Dwalia too, like was a like simultaneously weird moment of like being satisfied that she could, just get rid of her captor and torture, but also just like I was so sad that B was in that position in the first place because of her, and like kind of she was changed and lost a lot of her childhood innocence because of Dwellia. Man, uh,
Yeah,
brutal.
and to reference Evie's comment about B being 10, this reading of this stuff that was going on with B was extremely vibrant for me because my daughter's 9. So this whole time I'm thinking about like my daughter and her current mindset and her current world abilities, her current thought processes, and then thinking about B being 10, having to like
Yeah.
think her way through these unthinkable situations for even an adult to be in. Like,
But Night Eyes to the rescue, like she was not
yes,
alone. She was not alone. That is one of the big stroke of geniuses of this series is of this sub-series is Night Eyes still being with Fitz and then jumping into B's kind of presence when because she really needed someone to help protect her and guide her, and give her strength. And so like, yeah, where was the comment? The strongest moments for me was recognizing how proud Fitz was of her for fighting and surviving. And yeah, like Night Eyes was there to encourage her to not give up the fight and to fight back and be scary, and it was working, and Night Eyes was really helping to keep her safe. Like I loved Wolffather being there for B. Like that was comforting that I knew that he was watching over her and always there with the timely advice.
Night Eyes is like one of the best characters I've
Yeah.
ever read.
Yes, yes.
Like
Yes,
wholesale overall, one of the best
yes.
characters I've ever read.
Yep. Yeah, it does. Like now I'm like definitely more uncomfortable with the whole idea of like the prophets using the catalysts and like manipulating them, and uh it's there's definitely more of like an intention behind how like the fool used Fitz than I ever really, knew of before. Um,
I mean,
which
like,
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, Ben, anyone in the chat, but it feels like the fool was aware of this and it really affected them.
Yeah.
Like the fool was more aware of what they were doing to Fitz than Fitz ever was, and it tore at the fool because I think in large part it's one of the main reasons that the fool left Fitz for a while, because he's like, I have to allow you to have your life with Molly, and if I'm around, that can't happen. And
Yeah.
so this
Yeah, that
whole
was
time,
yeah.
Fitz was really mad at the fool for just disappearing, but the fool did it because he thought, based on all the stuff he had been putting Fitz through for decades, that Fitz deserved the life he always wanted, and that life was impossible to have if the fool was even around.
And Prilkop also was manipulating him a little bit, like, or just encouraging him. Like the fool, it was so interesting to get that backstory of like what happened with the fool and Prilkop after Fool's fate, and just like Prilkop had been away from Clarice for so long, he still had faith in the place, and the fool was just like in this weird state where like he got revived and he's there past his time, and he's like, I'm just in a haze. And so Prilkop was like guiding us back towards Clarice, which is just like horrendous knowing what they're going to do to the fool. But and seeing Prilkop understand what Clarice has become, just this den of evil and a cult that's no longer actually being servants for prophets, just serving themselves. Like that was super interesting to see all the backstory there. But yeah, where did Derry say about the horror movie moment? Yeah, B like having the power to just say like now you're dead, like was chilling. It was chilling. Like, and then I was actually happy. I thought it would have been smarter for her to kill Vindelier in that moment, but I was actually happy that she didn't, because she felt, some empathy and human connection. And it's like, okay, like, man, you did enough chilling things, even if they were necessary. It was chilling stuff. B had to grow up so fast throughout this book, and well, the whole sub-series. Wolffather, yes, Night Eyes at the best. Chadia, indeed, we are pack. Let's go. Reuniting with Fitz, yeah, like Fitz, like
oh man, we'll get to that.
He's been without Night Eyes for a while, so like finally when he's back, like so great. Night Eyes telling Ketrick he would have chosen her for them. Oh man, such an emotional thing there. I was with Night Eyes for a while. I was hoping things would go in that direction.
Yeah,
but I'm in the end happy that things played out as they did. Jake says 100% the Fool very consistently is written as having a racking guilt on using Fitz. Yeah, it'll be interesting going back in a reread just to try to catch things about their dynamic that I wouldn't have caught before.
This is because that whole thing has become even more convoluted for me too, because Evie's counter argument is true. I mean, this made me more averse to what the Fool was doing than previously, or realize how sinister it kind of is with the knowledge that the Fool has and the decision that he still makes to do it. But at the same time, it's not like there's so many things in the series. It's not just black or white. Like the Fool, yes, is willing to risk Fitz's potential death multiple times and turmoil, but the Fool's cause is like he believes that he is putting the world on a better path. So what do you do? Like, I can't imagine being put in that position. And while the whole time he's doing it, he's going on dreams that he thinks he understands, but doesn't know if he fully understands. Like, it's terrible.
How about the dreams? Like, we get a lot of them as the chapter epigraphs, and like, as I'm reading the dreams, a lot of time, like the first time, I just didn't know what they were signifying at all. And then, like, as events start to unfold, where like the dreams come true, or we hear interpretations of the dreams, it's like, oh my god, Hobb was like just putting on a masterclass with these dreams that B was having, and like the one with the candle, like when we hear about that, and
crazy,
the 3 candles, like wow. And there were some things in this book that were just blowing my mind like that. Yeah.
There was a lot. I mean, again, I think because we're at the end of the series, these were hitting a lot harder, but the chapter epigraphs, is that what they're called? I don't even know. The chapter epigraphs were all just awesome. And I feel like I know these characters so well at this point that I was able to realize, like, when it was Chade writing it, even though it wasn't the end of it yet, or realize when it was B's journal entry or whatever it may be. And like, I loved those. But yeah, Molly's 4 candles.
Evie already mentioned she's gonna get a tattoo of Paragon becoming 2 dragons. Yeah, that's a big spoiler tattoo. But great. It's epic.
I think this is a good show off one of my new purchases. That's a cool tattoo idea.
Oh,
the buck, the wolf, and the crow.
Motley? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's Motley.
Also, Motley, standout side character companion in this book. Just great. Just wonderful. That is an awesome little sign you had there.
I know, isn't that great? Evie, I think, is the one that showed me that, or put it, or maybe it was
something Phil.
I forget who it was. Might have been Madison Goodyear.
But yeah, the epigraphs, some of the deepest reveals in the series, right out there in the open. Yeah, they're amazing stuff. These epigraphs, like, we get stuff going years back in them too, and there's a lot of tough moments here that I want to get into. Like, Hobb made this journey for us, the reader, and for some of the characters, as like emotionally fraught and painful as she could possibly have made it. It's like she has Fitz thinking that B has died. In the whole beginning portion of this book, I just want to yell at Fitz, like, you've spent lots of time in the Pillars. there have been stories about people spending time in the pillars. Like, no one has seen B being dead. Like, stop thinking concretely and like yelling at Perseverance that, you know, she's gone. Like, he thinks she's dead, but interestingly, I came to peace with that decision by Hobb, because while it was really getting me worked up, like, it allowed the beginning portion of the book to play out in more of like a deliberate way, where like Fitz wasn't in some giant like rush to leave and get out of there, and like to be a giant pain for everyone else. Like, he was allowed time to like heal up in Kelsingra, and for the journey to be planned, and like it's like I that was brutal. And then when he connects with B though through the skill and knows that she's alive, like, what a great moment. Except 3 seconds later, Shade is there, like bulldozing everyone in the skill current, and Fitz is like, "Oh crap! Like, this is maybe gonna be harmful for B. I gotta push her out of here." So like,
Just
Hobb gave me
so
3 seconds. Hobb gave me 3 seconds of like Fitz and B being reunited and like happy moment, and then like, oh no, B like doesn't know why Fitz like disconnected them, and like now she's thinking like, oh, he's not coming for me. Like, I don't know what, like, why he did that. Uh, Man, I just wanted them so badly to understand that each other were there and loving each other so much and wanting to protect each other, and Fitz was coming to save her. Like, but all of that made it so much more the sweeter when they finally did reunite. Thankfully, Perseverance like pulling her out of the smoke, and
Perseverance.
yeah, coming through in the clutch,
Just
and
such a
like
good character.
them reuniting, and like, man, I wish they had more time together than they even did, because then Hobb, you know, had some craziness happen there where they get separated again. But man, so powerful when B knew for sure that Fitz loved her as much as possible and had been trying all along. And like, I love that she later hears like the whole story of their journey from Perseverance to like know just that from the moment they knew she was missing, that like they were going after Fitz was going after her.
Yeah.
And but it took a long time for all those misunderstandings to be resolved. It was just like, it was so painful for them to be separated, and for B not to know if he was like coming for her. Like, she was thinking at one point on the ship, like, I'm gonna go be a slave somewhere, and it was so sad that she was like, oh well, it'll be like at least nicer than the life I'm leading now, of like being like a house slave or a scribe or a tutor. And she was like resolved to like never seeing, you know, her dad again. And that was so sad. It was so sad. Hobb was just like maximum pain, but like, I respect it. I respect it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments we still need to get to, and Derry is referencing one of the ones I wanted to talk about, which was the eventual, not that one. We all knew Fitz is an idiot. The eventual losing Shade. And yes, there was, I feel like there was like 8 of these one-liners, like Shade's boy wept. And
No, oh yeah. Like, even just Shade in the skill, like reaching out to Fitz and being like, when he finds Fitz, he was always like, Fitz, my boy. Oh man, getting a little emotional just thinking about that. Like,
yeah.
Oh,
I
brutal.
think you know, there was a, I don't know if levity is the right word. It's kind of how I took it a little bit. There was a little bit of levity around the Shade situation because he was such a maniac in the skill current that
Yeah.
it was almost like not funny, but like every time they sensed him coming, it was just like, oh my god, everybody pull back, like go away. And so like it added a little bit of levity to that whole situation, but like, man, there was a point later in the book after Shade was gone and Fitz was doing something. I don't remember the exact scenario, but he said something like, I'll have to see what Shade says like when I get back, or I wonder what Shade, and then he was just like, oh, like, well, that part of my life's gone now. And like that, it like hit again. I was like, dang, like they were so intertwined, and Fitz was realizing for how many years he relied on Shade being there to help him through something. I think it might have even been like towards the very end where like he realized he was getting like ravaged, you know, which I'm not ready to talk about yet. But he's like, I know Shade has herbs and stuff that can deal with parasites. And then he was just like, oh yeah, but Shade's gone. It
Yeah.
crushed me again.
Yeah, no, that was it was really emotional. He wasn't on the page that much in this book, but he had a strong presence nonetheless. And I'm with Derry here. Like I felt joy for Chade that he could finally be unrestrained in the freedom, like, and he's been around for a long time, and
Oh yeah.
and he's able to reunite kind of with his brother too in the skill current, and like there are
Do we
little
even
little
know how
details like
old Shade is? I don't think
nah,
I don't even honestly don't even think we know.
but yeah, everything around Shade here was very emotionally fraught, and sad that like he was not able to play like more of his old kind of role to like help resolve events, but um man, it was it was still emotional.
110.
Wow.
That's crazy.
uh,
Even over 100, that's nuts.
just even like mentions of like them wearing Lady Time's clothes, and like little
So
throwback
many good
mentions to that,
callbacks.
like yeah, they were fantastic. And man, there's so much in this like middle section of the book to talk about. There's B, just like we chat about that. We'll talk about her and Clarice maybe a bit later. But what about Fitz being on the Paragon, and then the Fool causing all sorts of havoc by like giving the silver to Paragon, and then Paragon's like, I'm gonna become dragons, and everyone on the ship's life is upended. Like it was so intense. Like there was that whole section. Like it wasn't just like nice character reunion and it's like fan service and we're bringing them to Clarice. It's like so much intense stuff was happening here, and it was really compelling. I thought like Fitz's like ability to communicate with Paragon too, like they didn't know each other, but they each like were sizing each other up, and like understood a little bit about each other. Like that was so intense to see, like that dynamic. And
Well, there's that one scene in the after the bear attack, or around when the bear attack, I think, was when Fitz went to sit by Verity as dragon. And Verity, I don't know if this is right, but Verity did something very subtle to Fitz when Fitz fell asleep there.
yeah,
And
I didn't.
like all of the live ships after that were like, there's a dragon in you.
Or
And
and you're
Fitz was just like,
claimed.
who,
You're claimed.
me?
Like
Yeah, you're
you're already
claimed or
claimed. Yeah.
something. Fitz is like, what
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
talking about? Are you talking about me? Because like I'm not a dragon. And they're like, I know you're not, but there's a dragon I don't know that's claimed you. And he's like, okay, like whatever. To speak on the Fool again, like Hobb at this late in the end of the series is putting so much like doubt and mistrust in my mind, because like here's the thing, like my whole is the Fool's real only goal, it seems like maybe over the course of this entire series, is to bring dragons back to the world at any cost whatsoever, to completely destroy Clarice. That's what it feels like, because like,
No, I felt like, like
you know
why
what I
was
mean?
that?
Like
Why?
overall,
Yeah, yeah. Like why
because
was that the mission to bring dragons back? It's like that to him was his end, but I don't think he understood it until we
he's
were at this
always
point in the
hiding
series.
something.
Yeah,
Like no one, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
Amber, like giving like that was such like completely out of left field. Like
yeah,
he's
yeah,
always plotting, and it always seems like he's plotting to somehow get the people he needs to get to the point where dragons can be brought back, and even more dragons can be brought back. And part of it's just like, was he doing that because it's the right thing, because humankind killed off dragons, or is he doing it because he really believes that Clarice needs to be completely
yeah.
destroyed and dragons are
I
the only things that can do it?
I got the sense that through Tawny Man that he just knew that his goal was to basically save the dragons and get them back into the world. That was as far as he could see, and beyond that, he expected to just be dead. And so it was only now that he had this mission of destroying Claris that I think he linked the two. That'd be
Okay.
my take. But yeah, what about Derry here about how scary Paragon got? Did he get the silver? Was that before or after he grabbed Fitz and was like clutching Fitz? And it was a
I
very
think that was
dangerous moment.
after.
Yeah, like that whole moment was so scary for everyone. Like Paragon's unstable, and like Fitz got caught coming
Yeah,
close
this
to
is just
him,
there like,
and like that was I loved it. It was so tense. Like everything on Paragon was so much more tense than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was more going to be like the Cozy Fantasy Tarman ride down the river, like, but it was not. And then Paragon basically is like, I'm on board with you with this mission, which I was like, okay, that's good. But then he's like hijacked the journey and the crew. It's like, we're not stopping at ports. I'm not getting more food and water. And then like he had something so like Hobb had Paragon like enter into such a complex emotional territory when we get to what's the place called with the where Edda was? Oh
Dibby
man,
Town.
what's that? Divvy Town, yeah. With Boyo, the reunion with Boyo, who
Oh
like
yeah.
brought Paragon kind of back to himself and like interacting with Vivacia as well. Like this whole section, I couldn't have been more gripped to every single moment that was happening. And I got definitely a little emotional again. I got emotional back in Rainwild. Was it in Rainwild when we first saw Paragon like throwing Boyo up into the air? Or was that at
I
the end
think
of
so.
yeah. And to see that happen again, like that moment, but like with Boyo being older, but still like loving Paragon so much and trusting him, like brought tears to my eyes a little bit. And then like to learn about what Wintro and Edda have been up to, and to see Kenneth's son, and like
Yeah,
what is
Kenneth's
going on with him, and like he's coming on the journey, or like what is his relationship to Paragon gonna be like, and all of that. Hobb was just like crushing it in this section, like as
Yep.
compelling could be. Man, Darius commenting on the fool's goals: direct the cycle away from darkness. They only know the next step. So keep the Farseer heir alive, wake a dragon, find the memory, wake the real dragon. Ah, okay.
Claudia said restoration of natural order. Claris messed with natural order. Okay. So yeah, the Fool just realized that Claris, although their original mission may have been just, has fallen into conspiracy and self-interest.
Yeah. Fool's about preventing the spread of the Hollow Ones, which he sees happen if the Farseer line dies. Ah.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, Kenneth sounds so interesting. Like he comes on like a tornado onto the scene, and you're like, oh no, is this gonna be Kenneth reincarnated? But then
Yeah.
as we spend
Very
more time in Kenneth,
abrasive.
and then but when he becomes a member of the crew, like he starts to change and grow. And then by the time he saves Paragon and the dragons, like is a tragic hero who,
Yeah.
oh man, what a great little mini arc there for a minor character. But like really loaded with older emotional baggage with like Wintro and Edda, and with like the Kenneth charm, and with like Althea still is like really like not happy with people trying to honor anything to do with Kenneth. And so like there's all this like fraud emotional stuff going on left and right, which just kept like the tension of this all was so high just the entire time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very inspiring to see the group of characters come together
Yeah.
for a totally new cause, literally after their entire life, their
Yeah.
careers, their livelihoods, their culture is now upended, all because basically of Amber,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
telling them the live ships that there's a way you can become dragons. Like there was a big, like, I was mad like for them, for Brashen and Althea and everyone in Bingtown, because like their culture is no longer going to be the same. Like there's no way that it can be. And so like they had that brief time where they were just kind of coming to grips with that, and then everybody that wanted to decided to stay just like banded together to like
and it was
help make this
uplifting to
happen.
see the humans who were all benefiting from like economically and from the live ships. It was uplifting to see them all like advocating for their live ships and wanting to make sure like if leave their decision up to them, including Leftrin with Tarman, and like letting them have autonomy over making their decisions and helping them to make that happen and to not just like selfishly hold on. So like I loved seeing their genuine bonds, and how like even with Paragon, like he wasn't just dragons, he was some mixture of human and dragon, and then still even after he became dragons, like having some human-like connection to the other humans that like just the pure dragon like only kind of characters like did not seem to have. And so that
Even just
that
like
was just
taking the Vestrit name, right?
yeah.
Like, didn't that happen? Didn't they
Yeah,
like name themselves something Vestrit?
what was the
Just cool. I forget the
what was
names.
the dragons said their names at the end? That was a great moment. Like, oh yeah, Zamar is in here. Oh, sorry. Nice to see you around. Another big fan of Hobb in the series. Maybe someone could help us out about the dragon name. Oh, Evie's there. Carrig Vestrit.
Carrig Vestrit. Just
Love
cool. That's a
that.
cool little nod.
Oh yeah, little things like this, like Tarman helping distract the council from getting in the way of Vivacia drinking silver.
Yeah. Collusion.
Oh, love that. Love that. And even the understanding that Vivacia initially was like, Paragon, you crazy thing, get away from me. Like she ended up like coming to an understanding and empathizing with Paragon.
Yeah.
Like man, all of the live ship stuff throughout this entire series has hit so hard, where it's like these dragons, like their whole dynamic and history with the humans is so complicated, like being unknowingly or knowingly somewhat like turned into these ships that they're kind of like enslaved by the humans, and then but developing these real genuine like family relationships.
Yeah.
Man, like it's so like nuanced and intense. And Hobb handles like all the conflicting like emotional dynamics so well.
There was even that
Man.
fun little scene. I forget who it was even between, but it was just like some witty little banter where like someone was poking fun towards one of the live ship crew members. It was just like, wait, they aren't just magical ships? And they were like, they're family. You know what I mean? And then like they knew that they were actually just like yanking their chain a little bit. It was just fun to see that.
Jerry's saying when Paragon is finally freed, Brashen and Althea find their own freedom too. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Z says, honestly felt so bad for Althea and crew, very conflicted about the fool outing the secret. Yeah. Colin was talking
I was
about
too.
that.
I was conflicted about that. I was because Amber didn't give them a choice.
Yeah.
Maybe because she knew like there was like they would never agree to it. She just made the choice for them, which that made me mad.
Darius saying, I wonder if the flip side to the Elderlings will play a role in the new story Hobb is writing. The human-altered dragons. The abominations from Others Island. Were they all killed by Tintaglia and
That's a good
Evie?
question.
What happened with the abominations? Like we heard that they went over there, but yeah, what's the deal with the others again? They were where? How did they come about? I forget.
Think.
I forget now what those
forget the
beings
details
were.
too.
Yeah.
Was it something with Claris?
But there will be more born. How were they born? I forget the details around that. I don't remember. Evie saying, so they were, because they wouldn't join Paragon until they took care of them to protect the nest. They're talking about Tintaglia and Hebe going to protect a nest of what? Huh.
I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not sure
like
about that.
Elderlings, but more dragon than human. All right.
I loved how Althea and Brescian were so also just like on board for the rescuing of B, like someone else's child, and like I thought they played a great supportive role in this whole thing, and I enjoyed also just them like being themselves and tough ships captains and making sure everyone was doing their part. And I had a great time, even though it was tense for some of it, like on this journey to Claris with everyone. And then it's like, once we get there, and there's like this kind of this convergence where B and Fitz are kind of getting there around the same time, but like once we get there, we know things are going to go crazy. But
yeah,
like it was such a compelling section, that whole part. There saying connection to dragons cause the elderling dragon changes in human DNA. That connection causes much alteration in some of the serpent eggs. Oh, just like how the humans are changed, the serpent eggs are changed because of connections. I see. Interesting. That does seem like a thread that Hobb can pull on a bit in the sequel series.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go grab my laptop charger in case I need it.
Oh, yeah.
2 seconds.
No worries. Dragons will take on humans to become abominations. Man, I can't wait for a reread and seeing so much that I didn't understand or missed the first time around. I kind of have the urge, while everything's fresh, to do these guys soon. It's been so many years since I did that original trilogy. But Hobb is just a master of this little tiny world building details and long-term plotting, and I love when so many things come together and threads are just not left, unresolved and unraveled. But her care with all the details is just something that thrills me. Derry's saying it's why the abominations were only found on the island where the eggs were laid. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely more to explore with just like how dragons and humans are going to coexist together, and of how slowly she unwound the world over 16 books. Yeah, we get reveals slowly dripped out to us over so many thousands of pages and books and subseries.
My Hobb shirt on.
Oh, look at that! The serpent tangle, nice. Oh man, I mean, so many things would be like different on reread. Like everything that's happening around like the skill in the Farseer trilogy, I will understand so much better now. And like the serpents too in Live Ship, like if I go back and reread, is understanding what's going on with all that. Yeah. Per and B are this generation's Burrich and Patience.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, nice. All right, can we talk about getting to Claris? First of all, we first see the inside of Claris through B's POV, and we're taken into like the heart of the servant's lair and meet like the four, and all of this. I was just like in awe of Hobb's like writing here, like the brutality of this. Like I really believed in all of this as like being possible, and just these long-lived self-centered evil creatures that were the four. Like they were so terrifying. Man, getting an inside look at Claris, just like it lived up to what I was expecting it could be and more. Like, and it was chilling.
Yeah, I think over the course of Dwalia and her like Kerf and Vindalire dragging B to Claris, I hated Claris and the Four by proxy just through
Yeah.
Dwalia. Like I
Yeah.
hated their purpose. I hated everything that it stood for, just like the Fool did. And then when we got there, that hatred was immediately like vindicated. Like it was horrible. It was, I think the ironic thing is we didn't know how they felt about Dwalia this whole time. We just
Yeah,
kind of, I
they were
assumed
not.
that Dwalia
Yeah.
was just one of their trusted, servants.
Yeah.
No, she's on this like crazy mission to like prove that she's worthy. And we didn't know that this whole
Yeah, and
time.
we didn't know that they would be like so unhappy with like Dwalia, not coming back with their horses and with the lyrics and like Dwalia lost her big supporter, it seemed, with like the what do we call the Pale Woman? So yeah, we
Oh,
get
yeah.
this look into the internal politics of this cult, and each of the member of the Four has their own politics going on, and they have their own dynamic where they're not all united. Like this was all just top notch,
Yeah, none of them trust
thrilling.
each other. None of them trust each
Like
other. That's obvious.
I had
And
no clue. It
they
was
don't
all
even believe,
unpredictable
like,
too. Yeah,
they don't believe Dwalia, that they have literally
yeah,
got the
yeah,
person. Like they, I mean, like they think they got the unexpected son, but like really,
yeah,
like they have no idea that they brought their own downfall like into like they didn't even think it was either of them. They're just like, who is this? Like
yeah.
who did you bring here? Like it took
Yeah,
so much
it did
time for
make
them to
things unpredictable. Like,
believe.
what are they gonna do with B? Like, are they gonna throw her? Like, where are they gonna throw her? And what are they gonna do to her? Like, it ended up, thankfully, like we didn't give B too tough a time. They put her in the comfy prison cells where she could actually talk to Prilcup, which was added a really interesting piece of this whole thing. And so like, yeah, I was really worried for B in this whole section, but luckily it was like Dwellia and Vindelier that were like getting the brunt of the Four's like torture at this moment. But it was unsettling, Derry, for sure. Just like not knowing
When
how
then
things were gonna play out here.
figuring out how Vindelier is what he is was interesting too.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it was he was a creation of Dwalia's, right? Isn't that
yeah,
like kind of like
yeah,
she was feeding them
yeah. He has a very
whatever?
tragic backstory. Like he was like twins, and um, just like the way that the kids in Clara's get treated was just like Hobb went like to a really thick evil place with the whole backstory of Clarice and just how they operate, and um yeah, it made you empathize with Vindelier, just like B was, and uh just how he was treated so horribly, and still like had this kind of Stockholm syndrome type attachment to Dwalia, who's his like only caretaker basically his whole life. Yep.
I don't
Well,
know if this was a parallel that was designed to be made or should be made, but in my whole like in the reading of this, the whole time I was comparing Vindelier to Thick and what happens when somebody of that power is within the grasp of dastardly people like the foreign
yeah,
Claris versus Thick, who is extremely powerful, like more powerful than anyone ever gives him, like the time of day to think about being that powerful. But he's with the good guys. I
yeah.
don't know, like it
No,
was a weird parallel I kept
it
drawing,
was,
and
yeah. And the second you said that, Derek made the same comment. Um, and like there were moments where you saw Vindelier just wanting companionship and connection, like calling B brother, and being upset when B wasn't kind of responding to him with brotherly affection. Like there was a lot of in there where we could see like the two paths of
yeah.
the result of raising someone like Thick or Vindelier one way versus the other with love and care. Um, yeah, it was a very interesting parallel, and yeah, brutal though how this one played out. Um,
And this
and
whole time
yeah,
we're seeing B realize how much power she has, which she didn't know. She's
yeah, yeah,
completely untrained. Like nobody thinks including her, that she has. I mean, she literally realizes herself based on her readings of her father's journals and things that she's read in Fitz's like office space like over the years. She's like, I have the Farseer magic, I think. And then she's like, oh, I have the Farseer magic. Like she
Oh
realizes
man,
all
yeah.
this stuff by herself, which is crazy.
And as we like start getting the sense that like she's the destroyer, like wow, like, and
Did not see that.
she's escaping and killing Symph and Dwalia and setting fire to Claris's records. Like I like that was totally badass of like her setting fire to all those records um and then like yeah, just taking matters into her own hands and um yeah, with her utterly unique parentage, she can fill the prophetic roles. She can be her own prophet, her own kettles. Ooh,
I
I
didn't
like
think about
that.
that.
Like being in her POV and she's seeing like these nexus moments of like the future can branch from here and so interesting, so fascinating. Um, and man, and then at the same time, like that she's doing all this, like Fitz is trying to infiltrate the castle with everyone, and they go like commando to like go through the sewers, and oh, they send Motley first of all to find her, which is a great move. Um, and then like luckily they meet up and are fighting, and this whole section was just like I couldn't stop, I couldn't put it down. I was like so compelled. This is like Hobbs fast paced like actiony section. um it was heart stopping. Like there's
The
the fire, the
anticipation
smoke,
for
yeah.
this convergence may have been, I think it was maybe for me a little bit greater than the convergences we knew had to happen in live ship too.
Yeah.
Because this whole time it's just like a race, not a race, but like there's just the two journeys. There's B and Dwalia and their crew heading to Claris, and there's Fitz and the Fool and everybody heading to Claris, and B doesn't know that Fitz and everyone is heading to Claris, and she's like, I gotta do all this on my own. And so like I was waiting for this convergence point to happen and for B to realize, oh, they're coming. Like, because she had, I mean, much like Fitz had resolved to just grieve and accept B's death, she had resolved to grieve and accept the fact that she was abandoned.
Yeah, yeah. No, Derry, you're so right. When Hob does do the action, it hits hard. Like this section was just utterly thrilling and heart stopping of like how are they going to get out of this castle, survive? Are they like who are they going to take down in the process? And like like they have these bombs that they brought in. They have a canister of
Uh,
silver. I'm like, are these all going to come into play? Like Fitz gets wounded. Like is anyone else going to like get killed in this mission? Of like I'm worried about Per and Spark and Fitz, Vigilant, or like Lant, who's there,
yeah,
and so they're making their way. They get B, like they're figuring out a way out of it, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna get out of it, and then like, of course, Fitz gets stuck in the tunnel
yep,
with the debris, and I was so just like depressed about that situation. I'm like, oh no, like he's not gonna be able to like rescue B and then go off and spend time together. Like I was so broken up about how this was ending. And I'm like, oh well, I guess like Hob was just teasing me about like the last bomb and the canister of silver and his goodbye to the Fool and like recognizing that he could heal the Fool and like he couldn't get out of this. Like that all hit so hard.
yeah,
And I was like, man, Hobbs doing it again with just like this sudden death of main character, like with Night Eyes and now with Fitz. And I'm like, okay, it went out with sacrifice and it was a beautiful moment. And I'm at peace with it. So I was so like I thought that was it. I thought Fitz died. when he like lost consciousness and gave out his healing to the fool. Did you
Yep.
think that as
I
well?
thought yeah, like, I didn't know if he died in that moment, but I did think he was gonna die. I mean, it's Hobb, like, I knew it was gonna hurt. I didn't know how much it was gonna hurt yet, because that hurt too. But, oh my god, I was so mad when I realized the dart is what did it in the end. The
Yes. Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
so,
So
so I
so
thought
first
Prilcop poisoned him. I really did. Like, I thought Prilcop poisoned him. And
Oh,
it just didn't
interesting.
set
Yeah,
in yet.
I didn't know what was going on until I remembered about the dart. But first of all, I thought Fitz was dead for a little while until we come back into the Fitz POV, into the moment of that he's trapped still, and I'm like, "Oh, Hob, you got me." Uh, yeah, Chatty, I didn't believe he was done. I thought he actually had died. So when we came back in the Fitz POV, I was like, "Let's go! Okay, we're back in business." There's the silver, the bomb. I'm like, maybe those will still come into play. The explosion. He gets the silver all over him. He can heal or somewhat heal and just get out of there. I was so thrilled, but then they left like they were gone by that time. And so, like, oh man, how was so brutal with like I thought Fitz died. Now he's back, but he was too late to catch the ship that left. And but at least he was alive. And I'm like, okay, he'll get to reunite with B. And then when he started to deteriorate, and I remembered about the dart, like again, Hobb just like
It was
with the
that. It was
dagger
Night
to
Eyes.
the
It was
heart.
Night Eyes that like I like
Oh man.
Zong Fantasy was saying the moment the dart hit, he knew. I didn't know. I didn't know until Night Eyes literally said we have worms, and I was like, no,
Oh
this
no.
cannot
Yes.
be how Fitz
Yeah.
dies, but it's so Hobb.
Oh man. Yeah.
Uh,
Z was depressed when he realized about the dart. Um, Dying is boring. I love Night Eyes. Hobb is so great with the Night Eyes voice and like the dialogue, like everything about Night Eyes. Hobb just is perfect. It's perfect. She nails it. For Night Eyes' character.
Fitz coming to grips with the fact that he was dying was some of the hardest parts of this whole series that I had
Oh,
to
you mean
read. Like,
later? You mean later when he's back deteriorating because of the worms?
yeah, just that whole
Oh
sequence
yeah.
after he
Oh,
realizes he has worms. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
it's kind of like what
We'll get
anyone would
there.
think. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we'll get there. We'll get there. I first want to discuss though the other side of this escape is like B getting out back to the Paragon, and then like the Clarios people coming to like set fire to the ship, and like that was a really intense
Yeah,
action scene of like them of Kennitson like saving Paragon, him becoming dragons, and then once the dragons were out, like they were good to go because the dragons were wreaking havoc. But like, man, that was so intense, so intense, man.
yeah,
And I was so happy that Paragon was able to be saved in the nick of time like that. And Hobb did not get me though with some of the others. Like I got used to I'm used to in fantasy, like if we don't see a body, I think they're alive somewhere. And so like we didn't see Althea, Brescian, or no, Brescian was there from the beginning, but we didn't see
Lant was one of
Althea
them.
and Lant. And like, okay, like we're gonna see them again. And so I wasn't too worried about all them, but like
Yeah,
Boyo was badly burned, and like, man, I really loved the part when they're on the ship home and like B is wanting to heal him and like or like
yeah,
heals him in the nick of time and then continues to like secretly heal him and the fool's like trying to get her to stop. Really powerful stuff all through there.
yeah.
And Evie's hearing us talking about Fitz between the fake out death and his end has me all choked up. Like that's a really interesting moment in this Fitz journey. Like he has all the silver around, like he like realizes that they got away, and so like he's then like all alone, and he's back into like just cold assassin mode, and
Yeah.
he goes and kills the last member of the four. He has a really interesting chat with Pearl Cup. Like that was interesting and cool about
Just
like
So weird. That all felt
Yeah.
like Fitz just in a like hallucinatory dream. Like
Going like through the skill pillars, like to that, or was he? Did he take a ship to that place? Or
no, he was trying to go home. It made me so mad. He was so beaten and exhausted that he just like went to rest his hand on the skill pillar and it was not the right rune.
oh yeah.
And that's what took him to the garden or the, where all the dragons were. And then that's when Night Eyes was like,
Ah.
no, no, brother, this is the right place. And then
Oh,
I
brutal.
was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
uh
Once we got to the quarry, did
the
you
quarry, that's
kind of
yeah.
did you kind of feel like you knew what was gonna go down?
I
Uh
knew what had to happen, but I was so mad at Hobb for doing it this way because like I swear, like I texted you, I messaged you in Discord. I was just like, this is the whole last like because I listened to the end of this, the whole last like 4 hours of the book was just like intermittent phases of me at work with tears running down my face because it was
yeah.
just
Yeah.
it was the most brutal way for one of my favorite characters ever to come to an end, and it was so hard to read and to watch Fitz deteriorate like this for me.
Yeah, but also
So hard.
I was so happy when like B and Ketcherkin and Purr and Lant like all found him like
Yep.
in time where he was still alive and conscious with at least, you know, some of his self there and memories. Like I was so happy that they were able to reunite. Like that was to me like it just was so essential to have this cathartic ending with that they could all be there with him. Man, and Evie's also mentioning a little bright spot there, like Lant and Sparks'
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah, that was very sweet. That was very sweet indeed. I'm right with you. Um, felt like an apology for the argument in Golden Fool with Lant accepting the dual roles. That's true. That's a great parallel. And Z says I predicted the end back in Assassin's Quest. Oh
Not
wow,
me.
great foresight there.
Yeah.
That's
Not me.
that Fitz was oblivious to his fate while Night Eyes was fully aware. It was difficult to read. Yeah, this whole part so difficult to read. I was just
I
like,
was
can something else happen? Like when he's deteriorating with the worms and he's still like physically moving around and everything. I was like, can he like heal himself? But like he's not able to heal himself enough to outrun what the worms are doing. Like brutal when it was like
it was just
realizing,
relentless.
yeah,
It was relentless. Just I mean, seeing Fitz deteriorate into what he deteriorated into by himself was relentless, and then them all coming and realizing that they had to be there for him was like a whole nother. I was like, I can't handle this. And then just the periodic like POV switches that showed us how horrible Fitz looked. Just like
yeah,
just like when the fool saw him, it was just like, oh Fitz. I was just like, no, I can't. I can't do
yeah.
this. Like
Oh
I
no,
can't.
brutal, brutal. But like being in Fitz's POV from this also was interesting because like he was pretty focused on like his mission, and it was like interesting. Like I was like rooting him on to finish this wolf, and I knew like part of him would be living on then. So I was like, yeah, let's get this wolf done now that we know that you can't recover from this dart parasite thing, and
It
so
was just
like,
like watching Verity.
but Fitz now living through this situation with this compulsion to form the wolf, it gave him an understanding of what Verity was going through in a way like that he just never had before, like when he was watching that, and that was interesting, and just like helped unite, I think, the beginning of the series here to the end in such a full circle kind of way. Yeah, Derry, right with you there. It has incredible depth to Verity's final moments, and just like seeing Fitz interact in a way where he's not fully himself anymore because he's been putting a lot of himself into the wolf, and like seeing him still trying to like being like partly Fitz and interacting with people and seeing their grief at watching him go through this. like Hobb just, I think, was it all was just so emotionally powerful, and just it was
Yep.
the perfect ending. Evie said up here, it was the only and perfect ending for Fitz. Yeah.
Yep. I couldn't like I didn't see it, but like after reading it, it could not have happened any other way to feel that satisfying and absolutely heartbreaking. Like
Yeah.
just heartbreaking. Yeah, it was exactly like that. And I mean, like you were kind of alluding to, like it was so hard to like hear like this is going to be a weird like real life parallel, but my grandmother is suffering from dementia, and she's kind of at the point where like she's still aware but not aware
Mhm.
of some things. And to hear Fitz saying things like, I know I should care about what you're saying right now, but I don't because I've like put it in the dragon already. I was like, that has to be the worst. He was having that conversation with Ketrican, like, um, about like he was saying, like, you remember how Verity was. He seemed callous and he seemed like he didn't care, but like all of his love for you is in his dragon. That's why he couldn't feel it emotionally, like physically show you. And like Fitz realizing that he was doing that, like, just crushed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I can imagine with that real life parallel you're dealing with too, that it's even more crushing. Um, man, and how it wasn't just like an easy like ending here for everyone in terms of like it being straightforward. Like there was tension around whether he would finish the wolf. Like, did something else need to happen here? Like there was tension between B and the fool and Fitz, and like B is trying to like manipulate the fool, I think, into like taking that final action where he melds with Fitz to complete the
Yeah.
dragon. And like I think B saw that maybe needed to happen. And there was a moment here where like B is like, I lied about something. I couldn't fully understand. I think I was too emotionally caught up in everything. I wasn't like analyzing things properly. So I didn't fully get like what B's lie was to the fool. That like
She said she lied. It was about the letter. It was about the
about
letter that she said she wrote, that she said that Fitz wrote about the fool that never actually
that said
happened.
what? Oh yeah. What
I
did she say?
Derry or Evie remind me. I think it was when they were still on Paragon and the fool was like trying to like become her confidant. Um, and B said at the end of some argument that she, after she realized the fool was reading her stuff, she said something about Fitz writing a rather scathing letter about the fool and how much it really hurt him. Um, yeah, yeah, it hurt
But
because
was it a lie though? Like that was true. He did love
well,
the fool as a
the
friend. Yeah.
writing of it never happened. She
Yeah,
just said
yeah.
it to like hurt him. Um, one of the
Yeah.
things that like again I kind of want to draw like a more real life parallel to, which I thought Hobb kind of nailed. If anybody like here has gone through like a family member with, I don't know, I've had multiple family members that have gone through like death sentence, like stage 4 cancer, brain tumor, Alzheimer's, dementia, things are eventually gonna take the person. Um, there's like a period of uh like grief that family members go through while the person is
Mm.
still alive that can cause a lot of strife, internal strife, and um family members going at each other for things that they normally wouldn't because they're grieving and don't know how to handle it. And I think that there was a lot of that going on with B and with the fool. The pre-grieving, like Derry's talking about. I feel like Hobb nailed that. Like there's a lot of stuff that like feels like it should be unforgivable that was said that I know in the end was just not gonna matter because like it would be forgiven or
Yeah.
forgotten because everyone's going through this, literally watching Fitz just wither away before their eyes, mentally and physically. It was just really hard to read because it felt
Yeah.
very poignant and accurate the way that Hobb wrote it. For anyone that's
Yeah.
gone through that,
Yeah.
I
You wonder
appreciate
if
it.
Hobb had lived something similar, or if she's just such a keen observer of the world around her and humans that she could portray it, even if she didn't live through it. But it was so real. Yeah. I felt like I was.
It's an
I felt like I
almost
was.
impossible
I felt like I
thing
was
to
there,
accept.
like one of them, right there, watching it all. Yeah. Evie said, just like the final couple hundred pages where they're all together, so emotionally tasking yet rewarding and cathartic. Yeah, that's one of those where it's not happiness, but in a way, it's still rewarding and definitely cathartic at the end of this long, long journey for everyone to be reunited together, worried that we were apart for so long, that at least they're together there for the end. That was cathartic, and you'd feel
Again,
like,
we get another
yeah,
glimpse of like Fitz looking around in his delirium and being like, "Oh, there's like a lot of people here to see me. This is weird." And
yeah,
like still it's
yeah,
still him like not accepting how much he means to people around him.
yeah, yeah. And it was, oh, Anita, by the way, very funny. Please start over again. We'll go back to the beginning of the book, back in Kelsingra. But welcome aboard, even if you are a bit late. But like, there was this last bit of like business to take care of between the Fitz and the Fool, where like you felt like people aren't going to have regrets, except for like Fitz and the Fool's dynamic here has not been resolved, and so to finally have the Fool meld into him, and in the page, like he's thinking the word beloved, but he cannot say the word, but I knew it. So did his Fool. Like those lines from Hobb. Like, are you kidding me?
And we get Fitz being like, to be like, he has to want it. I can't ask him to do that. I would never ask him to do that. And the Fool being like, I can't just do that. Like like it was the same thing happening, and they just weren't communicating because it was such a hard. Like, I mean, how do you? I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? Like, it is what needed to happen, 100%. But like both of them, I think the Fool is just like, I have put you through so much. I can't assert myself into this without you wanting it. And the Fitz being like, I could never ask somebody to do that. And then both of them realizing that like the only way this wolf is going to get made is if we do this, was just like,
yeah, and the
just
Fool, you could sense that he was felt like he was allowed to let go of living or being with B's caretaker. Like he felt responsibility to like protect B and B. And I think that's why he hadn't done this yet. And it was paining him to see Fool like Fitz not finishing the wolf yet. And yeah, like the fact that she's gonna be with the best possible person to take care of her with Ketchikan, like helps us feel a little bit better at the end here. And then the Fitz wolf comes to life and he's like, those were astounding lies, cub. You have your father's talent for it. He gave a final shake of his coat. I go to the hunt.
oh
Like, what a cathartic
oh
stand up and cheer moment for us, thousands of pages into this. It seems like Night Eyes is revived in this wolf. I imagine if we spent more time in with the wolf, that like we would see some kind of like melding of the presences of like Fitz, the Fool, and Night Eyes. But at least in this moment, it seems like Night Eyes finally has like corporeal existence again, and that's a great
yeah,
moment.
yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm very sorry for your loss, Chaudia. That sounds horrible. Sorry that you had to go through that.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Um,
sorry. So sorry, Chody.
but Derry's quote was the perfect ending to this book. Like,
Yeah.
was it perseverance? So it's just like, oh, there's something lurking behind
Yes.
us. And
Yeah.
then Kettrican smiled. Like, Oh my god. How do you nail that so perfectly?
Yeah, that is the best possible final line, and even dealing with death and grief as we do in life, there's these uplifting aspects and moments that help us deal with all the pain and grief and suffering. And Hobb delivered one right at the end to just um, this turned out okay in some ways for a lot of them. And Evie's saying that the Wolf of the West is all three of them together. Yeah, so they're one entity. Oh, that's cool. Uh,
I think the Fool always knew this had to happen too. I mean, he made the memory stone of the three of them that he gave to
ah,
Fitz.
oh, I forgot about that. That's a great
Yeah,
detail. Wow. Oh man, yeah, reliving this right now was emotional for sure. Man,
yeah,
um, this this really was the ending, perfect ending I could have hoped for the whole series. Really tough, but incredible. Yeah,
yeah.
it was
I
the
think
line of the Fool joining Fitz. Yeah, so good.
I don't know. For me, like I said, I've not read nearly as many complete series as you, but uh, there's not a series or any medium of anything that I've consumed, whether it be a movie franchise, show, and there's been a lot that have affected me. Nothing has affected me as deeply as this book, this series, these characters. Like I just, I didn't know it was possible to generate this for somebody else, like as Robin Hobb, the writer. And I can't, like, even harkening back to just like the acknowledgments in the beginning, the to Fitz and the Fool, my best friends for over 20 years. Like, I can't imagine her sitting down to write this, like having to like kill off Fitz in this way or so many of these characters. Like, I'd love to just like have a chat with her about how that went. Like, how do you do that? How do you like not pull punches? Because there's no way if you're writing for. I mean, I've been reading the series for like 2.5 years. I can't imagine being so intimately connected to the series that I was writing it for 20 years and having to do some of
Mm.
this stuff. Um, and
Amen.
yeah, like
Amen. Yeah.
I Darius said it. The series deserves at least one reread. I'm itching to already start Assassin's Apprentice again. Like, I don't want to be away from these characters.
Oh, I know. I know. They're so real to me. Like more so than most others. I have a pretty easy time suspending my disbelief and getting immersed in stories, but man, Fitz and Night Eyes and like B, just all the side characters, like they felt so real to me. And I one thing I'm dreading about, like, I formed so much more emotional connection to it all now that like a lot of really painful things happen, especially in like these first two books, where it's like, oh, I know some things that are like going on with Fitz that are so gonna be so painful to relive that
Yeah,
it's gonna be rough because he had a rough childhood there at Buckkeep. Not a
yeah.
lot of joy, like the occasional stolen moment of joy with Molly a little
Oh,
bit,
one of
but
the things we did, just to go back, one of the things we didn't mention, which I thought was a really big aspect of the wolf, it fits admitting that he was suppressing the memory of his mother and put the memory
oh,
of his mother into the wolf. Like, Fitz never addresses that
hmm,
over the course of the series until that moment, I don't think. Which, like, he literally admits to suppressing that. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know he knew about that. Like, it felt like it was skill impressed upon him to forget
hmm.
about that time in his life, and he like admitted that he was like suppressing that. I don't know. That felt like a big moment to me.
Yeah, you caught some stuff there that I think I didn't, which is great. Love seeing all the things I might have missed just like going through this as fast as I did because I was just like so immersed and engaged. I like rushed through this book, needing to like just know what was going to happen and so compelled. Yeah, everyone here seems to have such a strong emotional connection to the series. Like Evie restarted and immediately started crying. Um,
Yeah.
Z, he was really upset to see Assassin's Apprentice again. Or no, he was really upset. Yeah, seeing how far we'd gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't read Farseer without crying now. Yeah. And what
I
is it
already
about it?
cried
Is
at
it about
Farseer.
because the writing, the length of the series? Like, I think it is a lot of the writing power, not just the length. Because I've read some similar length series like Wheel of Time, Malazan, where I reached the end and I didn't have much of an emotional reaction to everything that was going on. And I think it's more Hobbs' writing and how she brought these characters and the world to life, and
I agree.
the rhythm of it all, um, and the emotional dynamics and the way she brought the characters just to like such real, vivid, organic life um, is something that only a few authors I think have done to this level. For me, like Hobb and GGK, like I felt it's not about the length either because like GGK brought an emotional reaction to me like from Song for Our Bone, like one standalone book. And I think these two authors are similar in the way that they can deliver huge emotional punch with elegant writing that's not overly dense or flowery, but that just like it reframes things in ways I would never have said the same way or thought of the same way, but delivers true wisdom and
Yep.
and in such elegant and beautiful ways. So I do think it's more about how she's doing it than purely just like the length or the amount of time we've spent with it.
Yeah. I think like for me, some of the bigger series that I've like actually completed, the Dark Tower series, obviously the Lord of the Rings. Um, I'm even thinking about like the Greenbone saga. This is like nothing against. I wouldn't put the Greenbone saga at the same level as like Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But like, yeah, I was emotionally impacted by the end of that series and sad to see it end. But not like this. It was different. I don't know if it. I mean, I think there's a very fine line that can be tread by an author, and I think that fantasy and sci-fi and speculative fiction specifically lends itself to being able to emotionally attach to readers more so than maybe. I mean, I feel like real life things based in real life for some reason I have an emotional connection to, but it's not as deep as this. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is. Like,
yeah.
I feel like fantasy allows you to explore things with magic and with kind of this otherworldly aspect where you're completely like reserving judgment and completely like in a sense of disbelief and just in this like completely in this world and with these
Hmm.
characters. Like I'm not comparing this to anything else. I'm
Yeah,
only
yeah.
comparing this to like the realm of the Elderlings within itself. And um I think Hobbs' ability to not pull punches and to deliver really heart-wrenching scenes that feel realistic, not just for shock value, um, is incredible and like very honest. Um, I don't know. I feel like if there wasn't some truth to it or like some ability to like understand humanity on a very deep level and then be able to like lower your inhibitions and like actually write that, which wouldn't be easy to do. I think that for me, it just works. Like, even though I know I'm reading fiction, it feels so real.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Darius saying succeeds so well because the writing and the story length, we get the fits his entire life and his reassessment of his choices as we go. Gorgeous. Yeah. Oh, I mentioned to Derry and Evie that there was a little mention of somewhere in this book of like B having a dream of the of like sitting in a house somewhere with the wolf like telling the life
Yep.
story to her, and like that's one of those things. Like for the longest time, I thought Fitz was gonna survive this series because of the whole
Same.
narrative framing device of this whole thing. But we get these stories told to B gets to spend time with the wolf and
Yeah.
hear the story. It's like so touching, but like that wasn't even in a chapter epigraph, so it's hard to find. I tried to look for it and I couldn't find where it was. Like somewhere in the middle of the book, I was like, what is this dream that she has? Is this like gonna be what the future is? Like, what is the deal with the wolf?
The level of heartbreak just like reached a whole new level when I realized that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a beautiful thing too. Like that's something that fantasy can offer us, that like if B's father died in real life, like she wouldn't be able to communicate with any, like to hear his life story anymore. She'd be limited to what he had left behind and written, and like that extra kind of distance from our reality allows just, I think, for more variety in the kinds of storytelling devices that the authors can use to touch our emotions, or to have cathartic, somewhat bittersweet endings and results that just wouldn't be possible in our real world. Like it's one of the reasons I loved the Ship of Destiny ending, where Paragon was able to take Althea's pain, and
Yeah.
bring that into himself. It's like just one of those things that would not be possible in realistic fiction.
Right. Yeah.
Just creating these beautiful and cathartic moments, um, and yeah, I do think there is something to this not taking place in our real world. Like I've heard Philip Chase talk about it a lot, really eloquently, where by distancing ourselves from like reality, we're able to like reach, I think, deeper, more like genuine, honest parts of ourselves and explore them in a way with that distance from our real life, where we have our guards up or we have to maintain some ironic distance, which is like the default kind of stance of living in modernity. And like there's this term he uses of like the fantasy is the literature of reintegration. It's like we can reintegrate some like deeper parts of ourselves through this distance. And yeah, I think that pretty encapsulates the experience of reading Realm of the Elderlings, because it feels like very also like organic to our human life and relationships. But um,
Yeah.
I don't think it would feel anything close to the same without the fantasy elements
I don't
kind of
either.
streamed throughout, and yeah, it made it very extremely special. Derry's saying, "Oh, sorry, go back here. I've never tabbed books before, but the most recent handkerchief purchase had me buying some Post-its too. Ooh, gonna be because because you want to find that part of the book where she had that dream. Yeah, I stumped Derry where she didn't know where that dream was in the book.
She'll find it within 10 minutes.
Evie says, blew my mind that it's heavily implied that B wrote all the Fitz perspective books. Farseer, Tonyman, and Fitz. Yeah, that'll be interesting for the reread.
That's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
I like that. I do remember, thanks to Jimmy's like 5-minute video when he was going through the series, I remember the moment that Fitz saw his mother. It was that lady, that crazy lady in Farseer that was screaming, "Cap it, cap it, cap it."
Oh yes, yeah. We're
That
gonna
was
be on the
Fitz's
lookout.
mom.
And what did they say? Sorry, hold on. I'll come back to this current comment, but about the mother, Derry saying there was the moment in the market, blink and you miss it.
Yep, that's what
But
it
the
was.
memory of the mother is initially unwalled by Kettle in Assassin's Quest, then immediately given away to Girl on the Dragon.
Interesting.
So he would have gotten it back when the fool gave him all of the Girl and the Dragon memories again.
Oh, okay.
Derry's saying the whole series has important things to say about trauma, the need to integrate those feelings into ourselves to heal fully. Amen. Beautifully put. Because our memories are who we are. Yeah, the themes around memory are also
countless characters in the series that are doing exactly this. I mean, Shun, Shade has had a horrible life. Fitz, B, uh, so the Fool. I mean, so many people are dealing with trauma. Althea. I mean, Kenneth. It's a countless number of characters.
Can we talk a little about the some of the more abstract things? What's going on in the skill current? Like with the, like it sounds like Verity is a major player still in like the skill current, and who are like those really powerful beings that Fitz encountered a few times when he took his trips through the skill pillars. Like
Is that
I love that.
Ida and L?
I love that there's still some of those mysteries. Like Hobb didn't answer every single question about what's going on and where, she left some things. I love that too.
I don't know if I want the answers. I think I
Yeah.
like speculating. I mean, because there's very loose hints from Fitz. There's just like basically like treating those presences like godlike beings. Like, oh, there's some stuff in there that I cannot even pretend to like comprehend. I don't know.
She didn't come back. She didn't come back to Selden either. I thought we
No.
were gonna, but Selden is basically still together with the female ruler of Chalced, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but we only saw Chalced from like B's perspective on the ground here, which was fascinating. It kind of brought to life Chalced as like a real place.
Yeah.
That wasn't just like some evil hive. And what else? Is there any other world building issues? Like we didn't hear much about Jamelia in this one. Like
no,
the future of Bingtown without the live ships. Like
that would be a
like,
fun like short story or something. Like just revisit that like 20 years down the line or something.
What is Derry thinking about here? Recent read-through has me on an esoteric thought process about dragons evolving into grander and grander dragons, eventually becoming pure silver, becoming godlike presences in the skill river. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Like
that's
like the dragons can live so long, and so like eventually though, with all of what they're evolving into, yeah. Oh, interesting. I love it. I had my guess too was that they were maybe dragon presences.
That's interesting. I didn't think that.
I
don't know.
Love that. Love that mystery.
Do we know how the Farseer line has the skill? Or do we just know that they do?
Oh, good question.
Like, is that like a major thing that I'm just like not remembering?
Yeah, I don't remember either. Are there any other loose ends while someone's working on that in the chat? What's the deal with the Farseer line and having the skill? Are there any other loose ends? Let's see. Nettle and Riddle. They are back.
Have their kid.
Their kid. And Dutiful and Eliania had another child, right? Maybe. I'm forgetting some things.
Yeah, I think so.
But it seems like the world is going to be, at least for a while, like in a state of equilibrium and peace.
That's
where things are left.
My theories. The books say that the skill is prevalent in families that crossbreed duchies and out-islander bloodlines. But how does that generate the skill is the question. That's interesting.
But I do wonder if she does sequel series, like, who are going to be the major players, and like, it'll be so interesting if we see like a much older Dutiful and Eliania presiding over Buckkeep and seeing what the relationship between Kelsinger is to the duchies and the dragons and how they're developing. Like,
I wouldn't be opposed to like a book with a Starling point of view about her life.
Ooh.
Observing the initial like trek and the Farseer books and what she's done after that and how she kind of became who she was and her perspective on
Mm,
Fitz and the crew. Like I think that would be a lot of fun to read.
that would be. I love the BPOV so much that if it's true that Hobb is working on another BPOV book, like I'm all about it because I just love spending time with B so much. Evie is saying the skill is like the force; it's in everyone, but the development and sensitivity control of it is different in everyone, and
Okay.
also genetic. Oh man,
I'll
I
buy
think we've reached.
I could buy that argument. I like to think about it. I think it's fun to think about. I'm glad I didn't miss something that
Yeah,
told us
yeah, yeah.
why the Farseers specifically had it. But
All right, I think we've reached the end of our multiple years long journey. This has been
man,
this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being my buddy for it all along the way
I can't believe
and
it's the
having
end.
these great chats and for everyone, Evie, Derry, Chadia, Zamar, Jake, anyone who wasn't here today who's been around for any of these chats, you've added so
Anita,
much to our experience. Anitha, yeah, I can understand now why Hobb has so many mega fans, and I'm happy to have joined the ranks now. Uh,
yep.
oh, thanks, Evie.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. I don't know if Ben and I are going to do another series together, or I think we have tentative plans to maybe, because the only trilogy we did not discuss together and now book would be The Willful Princess and The Piebald
Mm,
Prince, which I have not read and Ben has read. Ben has read. But we didn't read Farseer together. We started this journey, if you guys remember, on live ship together. So we talked about maybe going back and reading Farseer together and discussing those books. So if that's something you guys would be interested in.
yeah, that was great. Like Wolf of Princess, what a amazing novella that was. There's also some short stories that are set in the world. I know some are in the Inheritance short story collection. So
Okay.
there's definitely some more published Elderlings stuff
I need
that
to
we
get
need
my
to
hands
do.
on The Willful Princess and the other stuff as well.
Oh, thanks, Z. And thank you so much, Derry. You've been the one that's had to stay up into ungodly late hours of the night or get up super early. And you've been here for every single one, I think, of these and just have added so much to these discussions along the way. And yeah,
Would
I'm
love
glad
to
that
do
you
a series debrief with you and Evie if she's available
yeah. I'm so
and just chat with you
so
guys.
humbled that you and Evie and everyone have been here along the way. And it's amazing that just these books that Robin Hobb sat down to write, like they could bring people together from all over the world, and um, it's just a beautiful thing. Uh, ooh, Homecoming is the birth of the Rainwild settlement. Ooh, interesting. Shadia, thanks so much for being here. We'll hopefully be continuing along still, because I do think I want to chat with Colin about these guys. Maybe take a little bit of a break. We'll see. We'll see how long we can stay away.
Yeah.
But this was wonderful. Thank you all again, and we will be
Yes.
seeing you again at some
See
point.
you guys.
Bye.